What's up, YouTube? It's the Action Figure Grader coming back to you with another market update for vintage Kenner Star Wars action figures, this time focused on loose, complete action figures and vehicles, playsets, things like that. Pretty wide assortment, everything from a vinyl cape Jawa, as you can see in this thumbnail, all the way through the Ewoks and Droids lines. And hopefully you find something that you're looking for yourself, and that way it'll give you a good idea of the price that is a fair price for you guys. So let's dig into some awesome items, and we're coming out of the gate hot. Coming out with a heater. Here was a vinyl cape Jawa, 100% complete, no repro, and it was loose and ungraded. And these don't pop up that much. They're usually already graded when I see vinyl cape Jawas on eBay for sale. But this one was a loose, complete one, and it looked to be in pretty great shape overall. There was some scuffing maybe on the back of the cape there that would preclude this from getting a super high grade. But I would guess that this is, you never really know with a vinyl cape Jawa. But assuming the cape doesn't have any tears by the armholes, those scuffs probably take it down to about an 80 grade would be my guess there. And this one sold in an auction. It's always good to see one that sells in an auction so you have a very good idea of what a fair market value is for something that's as coveted as a vinyl cape Jawa. This one sold for $2,100. Now, you guys have already seen my video where I did sell an AFA 85 loose graded figure for $3,300. So I think that this price was probably about right. I've seen as high as, $4,000 for an AFA 85, if not higher. Brand new case towels, I think the highest I've ever seen for a brand new case towel, AFA 85, vinyl cape Jawa was $4,500, and that was on Facebook. That was not on eBay. So pretty crazy prices overall. So I feel like the buyer of my vinyl cape Jawa got a pretty fair deal relative to this one and relative to some of the other data points that are out there. So Kelly R., I hope you enjoy it once it gets in your hands. This was another interesting sale. This was the Cantina Adventure set, the kind of backdrop with the foot pegs that it was packed with. It's just a cardboard backdrop, and it's got all four aliens. It's got the blue snags, obviously, as well as the other three Cantina aliens. And you can see Greedo there, looked to be in pretty good shape. Hammerhead also in good shape. The blue snags did have some discoloration to the torso, which does happen a lot, and some scuffs on the boots. This is probably like a 70 grade, maybe 75 at best. But still, it's a blue snags, and it included the nice set. The one thing to keep in mind with this Cantina Adventure set, it's really just two pieces of cardboard along with these little foot pegs for displaying it. So not a very complicated set, but it's an awfully cool set. Certainly a pretty iconic backdrop there, kind of capturing the sand troopers looking for the rebel heroes, but pretty awesome set. And that one sold in an auction for $585. Now, given what blue snags can go for by themselves, even in this condition that you saw in the photos, $585 seems like a pretty good deal. Similar condition blue snags by themselves sell for between $400 and $450. So I think that was a pretty good buy there. Next up, we'd have the Dewback, the 1978 Dewback. I suppose it could be the collector series version that came in the 1983 packaging, but this one has the very coveted unbroken reins. That's always really tough to find with these loose Dewbacks, and the reins just crack and split, and they just kind of dry up over time, and that's why they break. But it's a really awesome figure. I think I had this one as a kid. I would imagine it was probably the collector series version, just given I was born in '77, and really the Return of the Jedi line was kind of the meat and potatoes for me since, I was, about 6 years old. So I would imagine that the Dewback I had was probably from the collector series line. But this one sold for $110 plus $8 shipping. That's a very fair price for that. A couple of different 12-inch figures sold. First was a Boba Fett, 100% complete with the original packaging, which is obviously in pretty rough condition. That one sold in an auction, only one bid for $495. Probably about right, just loose for the 12-inch figure without any of the paperwork or anything like that, or the box. It's usually $350 to $450, so I think $495, including all of those items, was a pretty good buy there. Next up was a Han Solo 12-inch figure. That one sold for $540. The box was in much better condition for this one. These are not mint and seal box. These are, either the tape is dried off or, you know, the tape has been removed. So the figure could be taken out of this one. But $540 for that, I think, was a pretty good buy there. Maybe a little on the high end, but not by much, I would think, just given how clean and near mint that figure is. Next up was a Diecast Land Speeder loose. 125. 125 seems a little high. I think in an auction, these typically go for between $60 and $80. Admittedly, this one was very clean. The big thing to look out for this one is the canopy having yellowing, which this one did have some slight yellowing. And then the chrome on the side often does discolor and kind of corrode over time. This one was very, very clean example, admittedly. 125 is probably not a price I'd pay, but it's probably worth it. I mean, it's a very, very clean example. Would probably score very highly. If you ever do have loose die casts and you want to grade those loose, Collector Archive Services does do that. UKG does it in the UK as well. But if you're in the US and you got loose die casts that you want to get preserved inside a nice case, CAS has pretty immaculate, awesome cases. I've got 4, I think, at CAS. The only downside is if you do loose grade these die casts is that they take forever. They take over a year. I've got a Y-wing that has been there for over a year, and I've got 3 others that are going to be there for at least 6 or 9 months. So just keep that in mind, is that they do take a very, very long time to loose grade them. But once you get them back, they look really awesome. They really do. So anyway, 125 to take that home plus shipping. Next up was a brown snake Yoda. That one sold for 140. It did have quite a bit of wear on the feet, though, and I'm surprised this one went so high. An AFA 85 sells for between $310 and $330. Those are the last 2 data points. So this one's pretty rough, really. I mean, if you look at the feet and that hand, which is kind of hidden, you know, the seller did a good job there of hiding the hand damage behind that brown snake on the left-hand side of the screen there. So, you know, to me, this is like a 70 grade brown snake Yoda. 140 is too much. I would have paid half that, maybe 60 to 70 bucks for given that condition. Next up, this is an interesting item that I don't know if we've really talked about one on the channel before, but this is a shelf talker. So this would be like an in-store display during the Empire Strikes Back line of figures. And so these would got to go on the shelf. They're metal, and they would just be kind of a point of sale display. And they're pretty coveted now. They're pretty expensive usually. This one sold for $320. It did have some corrosion there, as you can see. In near mint plus condition or loose graded by AFA or CAS, they can set you back a lot of money, about 4 times this price of $320, $1,000 to $1,200. Now this one even had a split. As you can see right there, it had a split on the top of it on the left. So this was in pretty rough shape, and it still sold for $320. So that just shows you how expensive those point-of-sale displays can be. And, you know, I just wanted to show it because it's not something you see come up very often on eBay. Next up was a loose, complete Rebel Armored Snowspeeder with the packaging and the inserts. Really great shape, although the accessories had been taken out of the baggie, so this would not qualify for qualified grading with AFA or CAS, but very clean example. That one sold for $150, $250. They can sell for that just without the box or any of the paperwork, so I thought that was a pretty fair price. Next up is the Turret and Probot playset. I always liked this one. I had this one as a child. This one sold for $148.50, and that's about right. You know, without the box, you know, $110, $120. The box was actually in pretty good shape overall, just some minor scuffing to it. So I always loved the box art on that one especially. He's got Vader in the back there, leading the charge with the Hoth Stormtroopers, getting ready to attack Echo Base. So very cool item. These baggies all sold. I had these in my what to buy video. I said, hey, this guy's got 3 of them. Luke Hoth baggies, all sealed. And they were $115 a piece, and one viewer bought all 3 of them. So, Jameson, I hope you enjoy them, man. I hope they turned out as well as they looked in the photos. But all 3 of those did sell after my What to Buy video went live for $115 each. Next up is the B-Wing fighter. This one also was not mint in sealed box anymore, but it was pretty much unused contents, as you can see there. Very, very clean example. Everything's still in the packaging. So this one would be an example of an item that would qualify for qualified grading. So the Q label from AFA or the qualified CAS grading, this would qualify because it's unused contents. It's just no longer sealed in the box. And it would probably score very high as well, just given the box was in pretty great shape. That one sold for $340. on 24 bids plus shipping. Next up, I've got some last 17 figures. This was a Luke Stormtrooper, 100% complete with the coin. And that is tough to find. Those coins are pretty coveted. Obviously, mint on card, we've seen how much those have gone up in price. But just the coin by itself can be pretty pricey. And the Luke looked pretty good. I mean, it was in pretty good shape overall. Not perfect, but pretty darn good. And it was listed for $800. The best offer that was accepted was $650 for a Luke Stormtrooper. Now, that one included the coin. This one did not. This one was in pretty similar condition, I would say. And just the Luke by itself sold for $370 on 23 bids. So those closed pretty close to each other. $370 seems maybe a little low, so I question whether the blaster is correct. But, you know, this is kind of more in line, that $650 number, usually without the coin. So the fact that you got it with the coin for $650, I thought was pretty good. This one was a pretty low number, and that means that maybe this blaster might be incorrect, although it looks like the correct blaster at first blush. So anyway, next up is an EV99. That was a pretty clean looking example. That one sold in an auction for 190 pounds, which is $245. Always a very pricey figure. Next up was a last 17 Yak Face, and this one sold for $600. Now, I just showed you guys in a what to buy video fairly recently, UKG 85% that was listed for $640 US. So that showed, you know, to me that shows you that UKG example was actually pretty fair, given that this one sold here in the US for $600. And it does seem like in the US, Yak Faces command a little bit bigger of a number, just because, you know, we didn't have the tri-logos here until KB Toys Overstock started showing them. So the Yak Faces did not appear that much over here in the US. Obviously, there's the Canada Power of the Force. That was very expensive. But you guys over in the UK, you guys got it pretty easy because there's a lot more Yak Faces. But at least over here, Yak Face, even loose, still commands $600 on eBay. Next up was an R2-D2 pop-up saber last 17. That one sold for $560 in an auction. Obviously, the sticker was pretty yellow. This is probably at best a 75 grade, but wanted to at least give you another data point for a very pricey R2-D2. And then we've got, I think, some Droids figures. We've got the Droids Kia Mall. This was complete with the coin. That one sold for $150. And then we had two different Jord sets that sold. One of them with the coin. That one sold for $130 plus shipping. And then this one did not have the coin, but sold for 275 Australian dollars, which is 183 US dollars. So 183 on the high end, let's call it 135 after shipping on the low end, although that one included the coin and was a much better deal. Next up, we have the very difficult to find Tig From. Tig From is really going up in price. It doesn't matter, you know, whether it's loose graded, or mint on card. They are getting very, very pricey. Tig and Sice From, both father and son, are very, very pricey. This one included a card back, as well as the coin, as well as that little kind of 2-1B staff. And, you know, this one sold for $635. I remember you used to be able to pick up an AFA 85 for like $550. And I'm sure that those of you who were collecting in the 1990s laugh at that and say, I used to get it for like $100. But, you know, even in recent memory for me, these were like $550 for an AFA 85 loose graded. And now $635 is what they cost loose ungraded with the coin. Next up was a Tatooine skiff from the Power of the Force line. Always a pricey item. Mint and sealed box, high grade. It's $2,500 to $3,000. This one was just for the skiff by itself, advertised as 100% complete and in great condition. And it sold at an auction for $750 plus $18 shipping. And then finally is the Ewok Battle Wagon. Power of the Force, complete, mint condition, and it does look mint. That skull, it looks to be very clean, although I question whether there's a flash going on. That skull does tend to yellow over time, but it's a pretty nice looking example there. And that one did sell in an auction for $450 plus $25 shipping. So anyway, just some more recent data points for those of you that do not collect loose graded or mint on card, and you just want to get some general idea of prices to fill out your shelves. I hope you enjoyed the video. If you're new to the channel, welcome. Please consider subscribing. Thanks again, and I'll be back soon.